Last time on the Volvo Ocean Race, we saw the final build-up, the preparations and farewells before the dramatic race start on September the 23rd. Formerly known as the Whitbread Round the World Race, and now in its first year under its new sponsors, Volvo, this is one of the most competitive sailing events in the world. Over the next 9 months, these professional sailors will be racing around the world in potentially deadly conditions, battling the worst nature can throw at them. This, the first leg of 9, takes the fleet from Southampton, England to the tip of Africa, Cape Town. It's the longest leg of the race, both in time and distance. Covering over 7,000 nautical miles, the leg should take roughly 30 days, but plenty can happen in that time. What was predicted to be a 30-day leg soon proved unlikely, as light airs dramatically slowed the fleet down, causing all sorts of problems.
Now, because of the speed we're travelling at the moment, we're starting to ration food today. That's our next little problem. So we're trying to figure out how we can get about 4 days more food out of what we've got at present. So today will be a half-size lunch, which is not great.
Yippee!
Traditionally, it was always going to be a tricky leg. The problematic doldrums have taken their toll on sailors for centuries.
We've set a record for this race in covering the least miles in 6 hours of any boat.
There was also serious equipment failure, which had disastrous consequences for 3 of the boats and put them out of contention.
We had a really bad day yesterday, sort of around the lunchtime. This fitting came off the mast, which is the headboard car holding our mainsail up. So when this one falls down or falls out the truck, we can't have the mainsail up anymore. So we had to take the mainsail down for quite a few hours.
But there are always high points, and for those that have never crossed the equator before, meeting King Neptune is certainly an occasion to be remembered. And there were plenty of twists and turns, making the final outcome totally unpredictable, right up to the last few days.
It's not very often this sort of thing happens. It's 9 out of 10 times. It's west. West is best. And this one time only in my career in round the world racing. We sneak through on the east side. Fascinating. Especially after so many days of suffering and just almost making it.
But then again, no one ever said it was going to be easy. From the moment Prince Andrew fired the starting gun, there was action and excitement.
10, 9,
Let's go, put the spinnaker out now!
5, 4,
3, 2, 1.
First across the line was Team SEB with Deduced Dragons hot on their tail. The fleet battled through the Solent, vying against an armada of spectator vessels who churned up the water, making it even harder for the skippers to maneuver into good positions. Within minutes of the race start, disaster struck the all-girls team Ama Sports 2. They ripped their spinnaker clean in half. A terrible start. Although the crew worked quickly to get the sail down and replace it with a new one, they'd lost valuable seconds, allowing the rest of the fleet to get away. A real disappointment for them so early in the race. But as the rest of the fleet began to break away, the girls finally recovered their sail.
Everyone will have blowouts in their sails. It's just how fast you can catch up, how fast you can recover. So that was a pretty good recovery, and we didn't lose a lot. And the girls did nice work actually. Got the halyard back forward, got the sheets back on it, and up she went again. So it was good. Jib didn't come down, so we didn't actually lose a lot of speed. Just a shame we blew out a $20,000 sail.
Tycho took the left-hand side of the course and were in good shape, but SEB still had the lead, with Gunnar Krantz on the helm, carefully guiding his team through the mass of spectators. The rest of the fleet remained fairly bunched up, jostling for position. Conditions were exceptionally tough as the Solent was completely churned up by the sheer amount of spectators. Thousands of people came to witness these state-of-the-art yachts beginning their epic journey.
Yeah, that was good, but we got a bit locked in at the start, which is a pity. But we're up here and that's what it's all about. We're actually ahead, but we're not unhappy with where we are, with the bunch. Okay, it's good breeze coming!
After just an hour of racing, Team SEB had a good lead, but Grant Dalton was not far behind.
It's all a bit of a frantic start, but you know, we got away quite nicely, I think. Looks all right so far. You know, we're getting on the wave. Hillbrook's coming in through quite nice, but just settle now and see what happens.
Amidst Sports 1 were clearly happy with their start as they reached the Hurst Narrows at the western end of the Solent. As the fleet passed the Needles and sailed into the English Channel, the last of the spectators turned back for home, leaving the crews to reflect on an eventful start and to settle into their first night at sea. Tacticians, navigators and skippers must now plan the best route to South Africa, although no one is under any illusion that the next 7,000 miles are going to be easy. Leg 1 is a baptism of fire for the crews. Not only is it the longest, it's also one of the most unpredictable due to the doldrums and wide areas of fickle winds. Unlike in the previous Whitbread races where the longer the leg, the more points you got, this time each of the 9 legs, whatever their length, delivers the same number of points. Day 2 saw a short spell of light winds halfway across the English Channel and the first opportunity for navigators and tacticians to make some serious decisions. The better winds were further to the south, but that meant covering more distance. The alternative was to just sit it out.
As the boats went across the Bay of Biscay, the tables turned and the boats in the west started to make the gains. What happened was the whole fleet were beating very hard on starboard tack into winds of 4.6, 4.7 for over 36 hours. And it was interesting to compare all the different designs of boats. They were all really going about the same speed, about 10 knots, on the wind. Very hard work, sailing with all the movable ballast, all the sails, all stacked to windward. To increase speed, to get every last drop of ounces of speed possible.
Increased wind in this area led to increased danger of boat damage. The first to suffer were the colourful Norwegians. The Deuce Dragons had broken their headboard car. Although it needed repairing, conditions were too rough and skipper Knut Frostad was forced to slow down and lower the mainsail. Finally, the problem was temporarily resolved by lashing their sails to the mast. The Deuce Dragons then battled on, but they'd lost a lot of time and were now at the back of the fleet.
We had a really bad day yesterday. Sort of around lunchtime, this fitting came off the mast, which is the headboard car holding our mainsail up. So when this one falls down, or falls out the truck, we can't have the mainsail up anymore. So we had to take the mainsail down for quite a few hours and try to make a sort of very creative car that could hold the thing up. We hope it's going to last for at least some days from now. But obviously we can't push as hard as we wanted, so it slowed us down for the last 24 hours.
By day 4, mid-fleet positions were beginning to settle down, but further to the west, News Corp was making the most of the conditions.
Here we are, morning of day 4, Team News Corp. This has pretty much been our lot for the last 4 days. Going upwind, been between 15, 25, 30 knots. Tacked a couple of times, but nothing too bad. It's actually getting a bit better right now. getting warmer.
At the front of the fleet and furthest south, the leaders Ilbrook realised they were doing rather well when the 6-hourly position updates, or skeds, came in.
Day 4 evening sked was okay for us. We're still managed to be in the lead, just a couple miles ahead of Tycho, and then 4 miles ahead of Marasport. We currently have 16 knots right now, but through the night it's supposed to be building, and tomorrow we're expecting 25 to 30 knots during the day. So survive that, hopefully without breaking too much, we'll be in good shape.
A few days later, and chasing the leaders but still bunched in the pack, was a philosophical Roy Heiner on Assa Abloy.
The sun is very beautiful, but under that beautiful sun is Tycho. And basically there are 4 boats within 3 miles. That's a very close boat race. Tycho is one of those leading with us. We're an equal distance, so it's very close. It's amazing. 6 days at sea, and you can see 3 boats. Fantastic.
And behind you, very small over there, I see another boat.
We don't look backwards. But back there's another boat. And we have to stay ahead of that boat. I will do that. It's got to catch us.
Over the next few days, racing remained tight. SEB took the most easterly route down the Atlantic seaboard before disaster struck following equipment failure. Like Deduced Dragons, they broke their headboard car, which meant they couldn't keep their mainsail up. This pushed them into last place by day 8. The fleet's youngest sailor, 21-year-old Scott Beavis, was sent up the mast to solve the problem. It was no easy task, however, and bouncing around in the rigging whilst the boat was pitching violently caused Scott some minor facial injuries.
I went up the mast to reattach the headboard to the mast because we ripped it off last night, and finished the job off on the way down. Thought I'd try and tackle the mast halfway down. Unfortunately, I came off second best.
They're going to be both angry and have a very big sinking feeling in the stomach. Angry because they just don't want to be let down by this at a time when they're already under considerable pressure. But the sinking feeling will be because they spent so much time, especially in Portugal, working up 2 boats in order to try and eliminate exactly this kind of problem.
As the leg progressed, other boats suffered from damaged equipment.
It's always a mistake to let Richard drive at the best of times, but it was pretty bumpy yesterday, and the Sat B, which normally lives up here in forward of this bulkhead, decided that it didn't like it there anymore, and it capsized and fell over and ended up down here. So that's not very good, and as you can see, it's kind of a little bit bent out of shape, and it's all kind of crunched up through here, and but thankfully Waffler and I managed to drag it back aft, and remarkably it still seems to work.
At the back of the fleet, Lisa MacDonald and Amma Sports 2 were less fortunate. Their satellite B communications totally failed, denying them internet access, their main source of weather information. As a result, their weather picture was incomplete when they entered the doldrums, inadvisable to say the least, and they were unable to send any of their video footage. This means no one will see anything of them until they arrive in Cape Town. Elsewhere in the fleet, the front markers were bunched together and extending their advantage over the damaged boats, who now had an ever-increasing distance to make up if they were to stay in the race.
It's actually really close. It's quite incredible how close it's been. Last night we had the breeze fill in from the west, and the boats out there made an initial gain. We lost the lead for the first time in a while. Bit of 2-sail reaching, and then as the winds died off, we've come back. We're now less than 2/10 of a mile from first, with 1 boat in between. We can see 1 boat behind us, and there's another couple within 10 miles of that, so it's really, really close. It's going to be a great race.
SEB are now the most easterly boat, with the rest of the fleet 150 miles to the west. At the front of the fleet, all was going well for Tycho, who had managed to hold on to the lead for 3 days, but Assa Abloy was still in sight. This is a very difficult time for the crews. The lack of wind has tested them to the limit. If you can imagine driving a Formula One car around a racetrack stuck in first gear, that's the frustration the crews are feeling. Volvo's 60 yachts are capable of 30 knots, but they've spent much of their time drifting along at about 6.
It's day 9 now, and just south of the Canary Islands. We've had a pretty close day today with a lot of the fleet. Seen 4 or 5 of the other boats come into us. A little disappointing. We thought we might just get through this ridge and get going first, but we've got Asa Abloy, seem to be our partners for this part of the race. They're up here a couple of miles. We're still in the lead. It looked like we've extended away from the rest of the guys, so we're hoping to see the wind speed pick up over the next 6 hours or so, and hopefully we'll extend our lead on the middle of the pack.
Light winds are frustrating, but they also cause other problems.
Because of the last 5 days of light winds, it looks like this leg's going to take us a couple of days longer than we first thought, which means we've had to ration food, which is not the most popular decision I've had to make, but it's a necessary one.
Now, because of the speed we're travelling at the moment, we're starting to ration food today. That's our next little problem. So we're trying to figure out how we can get about 4 days more food out of what we've got at present. So today will be a half-size lunch, which is not great.
Yippee!
Mike Braunton has done this race before and knows how testing these conditions can be.
If the wind's steady, then it's relatively straightforward. It's when it's particularly light and finding the right way to go at the same time as doing their tactics compared to the rest of the fleet and making gains, looking for a gain. There's always a gain out there somewhere. It's trying to find it that's important. It makes it very difficult and very intense, particularly for the navigators who are trying to find out their answers, solutions, scouring the internet, spending lots and lots of time of expensive satellite time through their SATCOM-B aerials, trying to download where the wind information is. Frankly, when I did the Whitbread 10 years ago, I'd have given my right arm for that information now. Near real-time weather information, wind speeds and wind directions that they can pick off the internet.
But even with the latest information, the situation isn't improving. Unusual weather patterns have made for an interesting, although very frustrating, start to the Volvo Ocean Race.
Oh, well, apparently it's quite amazing. We've set a record for this race in covering the least miles in 6 hours of any boat. We went 5.5 miles in 6 hours, which is very slow.
They've never seen it quite like this.
It's day 12 here on Sports 1. And where you see around you no wind at all. Normally there's about 25 knots of trade winds and magnificent sailing. But for us the last few days have been days of basically nothing, and this morning absolutely nothing. In the 6 times that I've been down this way and around the world races, I've never seen it like this at all. I think already we're probably 4 days behind. This looks like a minimum of a 36-day leg. For some boats that'll introduce problems of fuel and food. For us that's not really an issue, but it's very frustrating.
The only boat not suffering is Team SEB, who are still out on their own well to the east of the fleet, where even after all their problems they are now leading on day 12.
It's not very often this sort of thing happens. It's 9 out of 10 times. It's west. West is best. And this one time only in my career around the world racing. We sneak through on the east side.
But the doldrums could change all that. Sandwiched between the northeast trade winds on one side of the equator and the southeast trades on the other, the doldrums is an area of low pressure. The sun is at its strongest here, intensely heating the land and ocean. This powerful solar radiation causes the warm, moist air to rise skyward. The lack of wind means yachts can be becalmed for days or even weeks. The width of the doldrums varies throughout the year, but they never extend very far south of the equator. For the yachts, it's crucial to pass through at their narrowest point, although determining where that is in variable conditions requires luck as well as skill.
The area of the doldrums is very wide and it narrows to a narrow gap around about 30 degrees west. And that's really where the lead boats have gone through. And the blue area represents the doldrums and the lighter winds. This area here is the narrowest part, crossing point, about 30 degrees west, where the leaders went through, and SEB are looking to line up to go through about here.
But the Juice Dragons were still very much in the doldrums. Following their earlier problems, a new challenge had arisen.
The problem now is that one of the
pressure hoses for the water maker. See, it's dripping right there. There's leak.
They've cleverly improvised and a manual system is now in place.
Salt water goes in there, fresh water comes out there.
Both the water maker and headboard car need attention, so skipper Knut Frostad decides to make an emergency pit stop at one of the approaching Brazilian islands. As the fleet approached the equator on day 16, Ilbruck are in pole position, but their lead has been cut to just 15 miles. Assa Abloy have made up some serious ground and have moved away from the chasing pack. They're 17 miles ahead of News Corp, who are clinging on to third place. Then most of the fleet are fairly bunched, but Dedue's Dragons at the back of the fleet are now really trailing, 322 miles off the leaders and with little chance in this leg. On day 17, the first of the boats reached the equator. The nervous first-timers on board Ilbruck were called onto deck to suffer their fate.
King Neptune!
Okay, fellas, we're here today. You've entered my waters. We're here at the equator. I believe there's a few boys on board that haven't yet passed this point on the Earth by sailboat.
Tradition has it that as boats enter the new hemisphere, King Neptune climbs aboard and the equatorial virgins are tried for their alleged nautical crimes.
You tossed the pot over the side. You've come on this trip with extremely bad blades for shaving. You pay the price. Agree?
The roles of King Neptune and his jury are played by the old hands, who've been through it themselves on previous voyages. They declare the sins of each person and then punish them as they see fit. This usually comes in the form of a cocktail of leftover food and festering bilge water being splattered over the bodies of the condemned. Despite food being rationed, there were still enough scrapings to make a stodgy mess.
Welcome.
That was the equator crossing. I feel like I've become a member of an exclusive club. Now it's time for a little
Even News Corp's official, unofficial 13th member Bart Simpson had to take his punishment like a man. As the leading boats move south of the equator, the winds pick up and positions settle down. But at the back of the fleet, Knut and Dedue's Dragons are still out of luck. They're resorting to desperate measures to try and improve their position.
This is the last money we have on board. It was supposed to be something worth carrying in case we ended stranded up on the beach somewhere and had to take a taxi home. And I'm paying now my tribute to the wind gods, and I'm hoping it's going to make a difference for us as we are a become ocean looking more like a mirror than anything else. So dear gods, wind gods, help us with some more breeze. There he goes.
He's still moving actually. Very fast, but
there he goes.
Bye, money.
19 days into the race and the leaders are approaching the official waypoint, the islands of Fernando de Noronha, which form a nature reserve 150 miles off the northeast coast of Brazil.
It's a beautiful day here, and we actually have land in front of us. Fernando de Noronha. And there is the Brazilian Coast Guard, because it belongs to Brazil, coming to meet us or to oversee the surrounding. There is 5 miles to go to the corner, and everybody's pretty exciting. And we know that Ilbruck probably went around less than 2 hours ahead of us. We couldn't see them because you cannot see 2 hours ahead of you in this speed. Those speed we have 10.5 knots. So they are 2 hours ahead of us around this island. We are second, which is fantastic, and we all enjoy that. And now the big chase for the Germans going to start, and they're going to be sorry they are Germans, no doubt about it. Yes.
Waiting for the boats, our camera team and the official race photographer, Rick Tomlinson. It's the first face-to-face contact the crews have had outside the boat since they left Southampton almost 3 weeks ago. For the patient media team, it's meant a week of travelling from the UK, followed by a helping hand from the Brazilian Navy. They headed for a rendezvous offshore with the approaching fleet. Light winds this leg meant the crews have taken 3 days longer to reach this point than the leaders of the last Whitbread race. The rendezvous is used by the media team as a pickup point for video footage shot by the sailors. The race rules state that each crew must film their journey and send footage back via satellite to race headquarters. The waypoint means they can hand over the footage in person and have a chat about the race so far.
It's really nice to be in the lead for a week now. It's really helps crew morale, and the team's really pumped and really ready to take on the second half of this leg. It seems that the boats are quite equal in speed. So far, it's really hard to tell a big difference, and so it really comes down to sail selection, navigation, tactics, and crew work. We're quite comfortable with our routine. We've done so many miles together as a team, doing what we enjoy and doing what we like best.
So it's all going well for the team on Eelbrook. But is John missing anything?
Missing anything? Oh yeah, friends, family, my girlfriend, cappuccino, egg McMuffin from McDonald's.
Having completed their drop-off, Eelbrook sail on determined to maintain their lead over second-placed Assa Abloy, who are just 2 hours behind.
It's been an amazing boat race up to now. Well, if you would have told us 18 days ago that we're going to be in second place when we get to this island, I think we would have told you that's crazy. We've had in the first 12 days of this racing, we've always seen one, if not more than one, competitor around us, and that's actually motivated people a lot to sail a lot faster. We can never be too relaxed from where we are, because we know these other boats are very, very fast. Everybody's going very fast. If you make one little mistake, everybody will be back together again.
So Dutchman Roy Heine clears the mark and focuses on catching Eelbrook. Next up is third-place News Corp.
It's been very close racing. It's been, it's what we thought it was going to be, very tight all the way, and that's kept us on our toes 100% of the time. It's, every small gain or small loss is cheered or condoled in equal measure. Everyone's in good spirits, fantastic sailing, we're learning heaps about the boat and we're going faster all the time, and looking forward to the next 8.5 months of what's going to be a very tight race.
Tycho rounded in fourth. They'd led the race in the first week, but how did skipper Kevin Shoebridge feel about his current position?
The whole fleet got caught in a high pressure system basically, and for 5 days we really didn't go anywhere. It's particularly frustrating for us. Like, we were in pretty good shape up to that point, but basically the new breeze came from the other side, and we sort of lost the lead and have been playing catch up ever since. That has been frustrating, and it does get pretty disappointing at times, and that's the story of this race. It has huge highs and lows, but we're all having a good time on board and keeping each other on a level, so there's no problems there.
Steve Hales has his own take on the events of the last few days.
We had a good lead and set ourselves up the side of the fleet we thought was right. It worked initially for us very nicely. We managed to keep people under control reasonably well. The problem when you get in such light air as we had is that a tiny difference in wind speed makes a very, very big difference in your speed. And it really was the breeze filled from the other side, and just the space of an hour difference was enough to get other people going. And again, we made a little gain going into the doldrums, and in fact one sort of really nasty morning and one bad sked there, and this is why we're trailing in the boats that we are, but it's all to play for.
Fifth place Grant Dalton on Ama Sports 1 seems pleased with his position.
I'm pretty happy, you look at it from the outside and you say, how can you be happy in a fifth place spot at this stage? I'm happy for one reason, that all the other boats, or the top 5 at this stage, have gone around this island in daylight. I'm happy because we've got 3 that are now 300 miles behind, gives us a little breathing space, and the fact is the 2 in front of us are very close. So all in all, where we've come from, we couldn't, we're in good shape, very good shape in fact.
It's been very different from his previous circumnavigations.
physically this has been easy, you know, really easy today. You know, here it is, the middle of the tropics, nice breeze, perfect sailing, hot, sunny. So I know not a hard race at all today, and not really all that tactical actually. And I think it's really on from Trinidad, 1,000 miles on from here, that the fun and games may start. So, you know, I think that's when the significant breaks will be made. With Ilbrook around 65 miles ahead of us at this stage, I don't rate that as a big deal at all. I rate 300 miles, the boats behind us, is quite a big issue, but it's not going to happen for another 1,000 miles yet.
At the back of the fleet, the unlucky Norwegian team, Deduced Dragons, were still suffering from equipment failure, which was really hampering their performance. With their temporary repairs beginning to fall apart, a much-needed pit stop at the Waypoint Island will be very welcome.
At the island, we will receive some spare parts from our shore crew, who's waiting for us in a sailboat. We will dock just behind them, receive those parts, and continue and try to make that stop as quick as possible. We aim to do it in just a couple of minutes.
Even though the frontrunners had already rounded the waypoint, eventually Deduced crossed the equator. So there was the brief chance for a bit of frivolity, as King Neptune came aboard and restored morale.
These guys try to transform our salt water kingdom in a freshwater kingdom! Oh, very bad! I can't believe that!
Canute seemed to enjoy meting out the punishments to his unfortunate crew.
Something had to be done on this boat. A big cleanup. I'm very happy now, and I can announce that this ship, Deduced, will safely sail past around the Southern Ocean.
The punishment was very, very good. I'm happy to have done it, so now we can be fast in the Southern Ocean.
Very guilty people, huh?
And I love
very guilty people.
This food.
2 days after the equator, on day 19 of the race, Deduced Dragons got to the Brazilian waypoint and a mile offshore made contact with their support team. Spares were thrown aboard with hardly a word spoken. Within minutes, the yacht returned to the race, just like a Formula One pit stop. The tension in the air was tangible as the race for 7th place was hotting up, with the girls' team right behind them.
They didn't say hello and they didn't say thank you, which means no news is good news. If something was wrong, we would have heard something. So I'm just happy everything went okay, and I guess we're going to hear thank you later on.
300 miles ahead, Ilbrook were closing in on the next waypoint, the island of Trinidad. They were followed by Assa Abloy, Tycho and News Corp. But with 3,000 miles to go, Ilbrook weren't about to give an inch. Overnight on day 22 saw the biggest turnaround in the race to date. Grant Dalton's Amidst 1 had gone from 5th to 2nd before finally overhauling race leaders Ilbrook, all within the space of 13 hours.
Day 23 at sea, and we find ourselves in an interesting position, leading for the first time since we left the Solent 23 days ago today. Interesting scenario where we've sort of wanted the south. South is king. It's really a rule of thumb. There's no weather map that really even says that. Just trying to apply some experience to what is a tricky part of the ocean, and we have a fragile lead. We take it with due humbleness. We've been a bit lucky, but luck always tends to go around, and we'll pay our dues at some point. But great at the moment, lovely day, great spirit on board. The guys are sailing well.
It's been fantastic overturn to go from that distance to coming back. It's almost as you've seen them maintain a steady speed, where the rest of the boats, sometimes only like 9, 10, 11 miles away, have only been doing 2 or 3 knots. And Grant has probably seemed to have his own sort of private weather system that's kept him going all night, almost as if a submarine's been towing him throughout the whole night, and has gone from literally 5th and 50 miles back to 1st. Quite a fantastic, quite amazing night in the race so far.
Dalton is the most experienced skipper in the fleet, but it's unlikely he expected to be quite so competitive in this, the first leg.
What he can be sure of is that on a leg that he thought he was going to be very vulnerable, in a boat which wasn't properly tuned up, it was a team that was tired, and a leg that was anyway not suited to his style of boat, he has hung in there all the way and has shown that he can be on the pace even in conditions which are not the most favourable for Amidst 1.
The situation got better and better, and as subsequent skeds came in, they continued to extend their lead.
We are leading on day 24. 2,300 miles to Cape Town, Ilbrook. In the last 6 hours we put 4.2 miles on them, they're 17.6. News Corp is third. We put 10 miles on them, they're 68.4. Tyco, we put 12 on them, they're 104.7.
However, the conditions mean that a lot can happen before the yachts finally arrive in Cape Town. First of the problems is deciding how to navigate the South Atlantic high-pressure zone. There's the more direct route across the northern edge of the weather system, but there is also the option of taking a longer, more southerly course. That's exactly what EF Language did 4 years ago with great success. They picked up the stronger winds in the south and powered into Cape Town in first place. Although the current race leader Grant Dalton doesn't believe that's an option anymore.
This is not about flyers winning races anymore. There's too much knowledge on board the boats now, too much weather knowledge, and the flyers of the 3 or 4 races ago, or even 4 years ago, are not there to be had quite the same way now.
Being at sea longer than expected will lead to more problems in the future. There's the problems regarding food shortages and damaged equipment, and even more to come.
The crews themselves will be much more tired because they'll have been out there longer, and they will therefore be needing longer to recover at a time when they have less time to recover. So the trouble there is that they're going to be working round the clock when they get there in order to make sure that the boat is back into race condition as quickly as possible, and therefore will be leaving themselves less time to recuperate before what is an extremely hard, maybe 25 days through the Southern Ocean.
But it's the last few miles into Cape Town can be very, very difficult because you've got Table Mountain that's several thousand feet high, and there's a ridge of mountains that goes all the way down to Cape of Good Hope, which is like a complete brick wall where the wind has got to get up and over, and it can stop the boats dead in their tracks with just a few miles to go. You think you've only got 4 hours to sail into Cape Town, and all of a sudden that 4 transfers itself into sort of 34 hours.
And that's just the sort of eventuality the crews will be trying to avoid, as any more than 30 days at sea can lead to obstacles in the personal hygiene department.
Keep young and beautiful. It's your duty to be beautiful. Keep young and beautiful if you want to be loved.
Do you need a bath? Do you need a bath?
People around here call me Stinky.
What?
I'm the only one who washes and takes just a little bit of pride in being clean.
Skipper Roy Hine at day 24 just got out of bed looking absolutely pristine. How's your hygiene program coming along, mate? Stu Wilson, continuing on the Arthur Abloy documentary on hygiene. Stu, day 24, how's the boat smelling?
Boat smells pretty good considering there's 12 guys down there, very smelly and dirty.
Sydney, what exactly?
I do the laundry.
And you're doing the laundry in where?
My underwear in the galley.
When you're seen anywhere with your hat off, wear Marcel wave in your hair.
When was the last time you had a shower, mate?
I had a bit of a saltwater bath about 5 days ago.
When was the last time you washed your undies?
I don't know.
Oh, can't remember.
I saw my mum a couple of months ago.
So that's 22 days of sweat and God knows what else going into where we wash our dishes. This is an extremely personal boat. McDonald, we're still pretty suspicious of the Englishman. We're yet to see him have a shower. No proof of him cleaning his teeth yet. And still running the same pair of socks that he put on when we left England. And we're not even sure if they were clean to start with. So we're a bit concerned about him.
No, I don't need a bath.
Young and beautiful if you want to be loved.
With 700 miles to go, Grant Dalton's lead began to look less certain. Damage to 2 sails through crew error cut his lead over Ilbrook to just 10 miles, with third place News Corp 300 miles or a day's sailing off the leaders.
Well, it's been nice to make some steady gains on Grant Dalton and his crew. They've been sailing well, but in the past 24 hours, we've been steadily gaining. We just had a skid about an hour ago, and we're about 10 miles behind and in a nice position to pass.
The hapless tail-end trio of SEB, Deduced Dragons and Amma Sports 2 were still over 1,000 miles off the front runners. This means their stopover in Cape Town will be much shorter than that of the leaders. Not much time to prepare for the rigorous Southern Ocean, although racing between these teams remains very close.
We can see SEB here to win with. And say to them we have to play a tactical game. And the girls are straight behind us, which is a good position for us now. In the end we have to now play with the front and stay in the wind. And technically we want to be the southern boat and try to be in front of that guy.
At the front, with under 600 miles to Cape Town left to go, Grant Dalton was just about maintaining his lead, but as Ilbrook's Richard Clark explains, they had a strategic plan.
I think we're pretty happy right now with our current predicament. We've got number one right in front of us. Right now we're looking forward to hunting them down and roasting them over the final remaining miles to Cape Town. We're pretty confident as a group. We're eager as a crew to go out and prove that the best of the best.
And that's just what they did. On day 30, everything changed when John Kostecki and the 4-year campaign of Ilbrook retook the lead after nearly 8,000 miles of racing, proving their pre-race position as favourites seemed well-founded. It was therefore a jubilant Ilbrook that managed to hold off Grant Dalton's team and arrive first in Cape Town to a warm welcome from friends, family and the world's press. Ilbrook had outsailed their rivals, possibly proving that their better preparation had paid off, although they'd only taken the first leg trophy by a margin of a mere 2 hours.
Oh, it was a great race. You know, we were behind and we were able to, you know, pass them. The crew fought hard and did an excellent job.
You know, we have such an incredible team. You know, we have a great boat, we have great sails, and we put together a good package that goes fast.
So a hard-fought but well-deserved win for Ilbrook. It was a very pleased Grant Dalton on Amma Sports 1 that came in second. After all, they were possibly the least well-prepared yacht in the fleet.
We started this leg with a expectation of learning. I don't think we're supposed to be here in this position at all. We're beaten fair and square by Ilbrook. They're going a lot faster. We had a boat in the water for 2.5 months against 3.5 years. I mean, good on them, and we've got a lot of work to do. But second for us is way better than I ever had any expectation of coming in this league.
Grant had an additional reason to be proud. 24 hours earlier, his wife had given birth to their third child 6 weeks early, so it was something of a surprise that on the dockside he got his first glimpse of her.
Well, I got a bit of a shock, really, to find it sort of came in 2 parts. That she was in hospital and then she'd had it. I was asleep both times. Yeah, no, I'm just delighted. She looks a bit like all of them look like at that age, I'd have to say. Very small and shriveled up like a, prune. But I'm sure she'll be bossy, like a mother, and stroppy, and spend too much money.
With a total time of 32 days, 15 hours and 57 minutes, News Corp, skippered by Jez Funstone, were a comfortable third and the first boat to arrive in daylight.
Oh, delighted. Very, very happy. Big leg, very big leg, lots of different things going on, from 0 knots to 50 knots, but we're delighted, the boys did a great job. It's a job well done by everyone.
It had been a grueling leg and the crew were exhausted and hungry, having run out of food 24 hours before arriving in port, something they quickly made up for. The next 4 days saw the rest of the fleet finally arrive in Cape Town. In 4th place was Tycho, then on day 34, Assa Abloy.
We are very happy to come. We're happy to come 5th. I mean, it could be even worse. And the future looks good because we have good speed on the boat and all that. We just have to guide it a little bit better sometimes. So it's okay.
2 days later, it was the turn of Team SEB. They'd been so badly beset by problems in the early stages of the leg, and so were pleased with 6th place. Day 37 saw the unfortunate backmarkers finally arrive. In 7th place, a very dejected skipper of the Juice Dragons summed up the last 37 days.
It's the worst race I've ever done. Simple as that. That was awful. It was just horrible. You know, it's you can be back there. We fight it so hard for so little.
And finally, later the same day, the girls' team Ama Sports 2 arrived. This was the first time friends, family and the press have had the chance to see them since the race started, as their satellite, which transmitted their video footage, had broken in the first week. Skipper Lisa MacDonald seemed remarkably upbeat despite their many misfortunes.
It's been good. We've been in good company. We've been, we've been right next to some pretty top guys and given a few of them a bit of a scare. So we'll see what the next leg has to hold for us.
But it's only like a week and a half before we have to go into the Southern Ocean. So, I mean, already we're starting to show signs. We've got a lot of like sores that are not healing and things, and pulled muscles and stuff like that. So now to have a week and a half to get really physically fit and go back into the Southern Ocean is a big call. It's a big ask, but we'll have to grunt up and do the deed.
So to recap, here is a rundown of the Leg 1 finish positions and their point ratings subject to ongoing protests. Next time on the Volvo Ocean Race, find out about the dramatic implications of the last leg, including a skipper dismissal, boat changes and equipment failure. We'll also be seeing what the crews got up to during their Cape Town stopover before the race restarts for the first of the gruelling and dangerous Southern Ocean legs to Sydney, Australia.